Setting up boundary comes with guilt.
Blood is thicker than water and all these like dumb things people say. Like what does that even mean? No.
As a grown woman, I should have know better. She might be listening to podcasts. This is where I got that.
Well, my boundary is this. Like it's not an excuse to be an a-hole.
Yeah. Just move on, forget it, get over it, shove it under the rug. I became this ungrateful child.
You can set boundaries and then also have a bit of flexibility.
I opened a little bit door of my window and I was like, hello, I don't think so. Maybe later on. No, I worked so hard. I paid so much money to my therapist. Thank you. And that's
Goodbye.
it. Goodbye. Hello. Welcome to Adulting Piece by Piece, where we figure out life one chaotic puzzle piece at a time. My name is Lily, and his name is Bully.
Hello.
Hello.
And I'm Lola.
Welcome. Let's talk about boundaries.
You know who has no sense of boundaries?
Bully.
Yeah. 0 sense. Everywhere I go, he just follows me in the bathroom,
Yeah. Oh, he knock, if you're in the bathroom, you close the door and So my dog Pico, if I close, the door has not fully been closed. Yeah. So he pushes it angry, like, how dare you?
Excuse me.
And he gives you the look, it's like, hello.
Yeah. Cheers. Most of the time. You know, this is actually very fitting because when it comes to boundaries, balance is key. Look at us. One thing that I learned in my adulting, it was hard. It was really, really, really hard. Setting up boundary comes with guilt and shame. However, I believe people put boundaries when they're trying to run away from responsibility. Because it's not like, here, this is, I don't know how to say it. I was literally going to say we should actually start off with like, what's a boundary?
Yes.
Because this term maybe existed. I'm not sure, but it's definitely become super common use now, where people use it all the time. But like, what does it actually mean? And like, where should you set boundaries? Because I think, you're maybe getting at a different thing. But I think what I observe people do all the time is that this is my boundary. So it's like, I'm setting these rules and everyone needs to follow my rules. But that's not actually how it works. Like, you set a boundary and the point is that you follow your own rule. Like, you can't force other people to follow it.
But
like, you can put conditions saying like, if the XYZ happens, this is how I'm gonna react. But it's your responsibility. Like, it's not you being a dictator in how other people are gonna behave.
I like that. As you said, that's it. I think I was gonna try to say the same thing. Yeah. Because they're not following them, but they expect you to follow it. Yeah. And you're like, this is not dictatorship. Yeah. Okay, go ahead and tell us what actually boundary means, please.
A boundary, in terms of a really simple definition, is a limit that you set to protect your emotional, mental, physical, or time-related well-being. So it's basically saying, this is what I'm okay with, and this is not what I'm not okay with. So it kind of fits what I said. It's a limit that you're setting for yourself and not a limit that you're setting for other people. And it's meant to ensure that you respect your boundary. So like, correct, it might mean that other people do things that doesn't abide by your boundary, but then it's your responsibility to behave a certain way and like cut those people out, for example, or like whatever it is that you need to do, as opposed to like, forcing people to do whatever.
This is actually really, right now, match what I did a couple of days ago. As I said, I learned setting boundaries to protect my own mental health and my own peace, which hurt a lot of people. And a lot of people judged as me as, oh, I'm lonely, or I'm depressed, or I'm like, I have all these issues, and they keep trying to like barge into this space, and I have to because to protect my own space, I have to put these walls up, be like, I'm actually okay. Yeah. What is this stigma that if I'm in my own bubble, I'm depressed and I'm antisocial? Yeah. But I actually chose right people to be in my bubble. Yeah. That's where the boundary comes. You choose who you let in, and you choose who to not let in. Yeah. So I had this a couple of days ago, I had this friend that called me, and I really didn't want to see this person. Oh yeah. Like, but like, you know, I was talking to Lola, and she was like, "Oh no, go see what." I'm like,
I was just Snoopy. I was like, "Can you go find out?"
Like, if I was this previous character of myself, I wouldn't go and be like la da 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 and put up with it. But then I kept thinking about it. I'm like, I have nothing to say. This conversation would not bring anything for me or for her. Maybe she wanna snoop as well, but
Yeah,
I'm
probably.
like, I'm actually perfectly fine where I am right now, and I don't want to let you in, and I'm sorry it's hurting you. And I was extremely polite, and I didn't tell her any of this. She might be listening to podcasts. This is where I got that. But I just like, thank you for being worried about me. I'm perfectly fine. Thank you. And that's
Goodbye.
it. Goodbye. I'm like, there's no way for me to give you my time. That time I could just be at home. And that's where boundary comes from. Because like it took me so long to learn this and understand this. For some family members, I broke this boundary and I was so ashamed of it. Because it took so toll on my mental health. You were the witness.
Of course.
I hated myself because I'm like, I'm in grown, as a message said, you're grown woman.
Yeah.
You should learn this. But yes, it is right. As a grown woman, I should have know better. Do you know what I mean?
But like, I think, especially culture that we are, you grow up with like this sense of like, you need to be this for your family. You're like, red blood is thicker than water, and all these like dumb things people say. Like, what does that even mean? Nothing. But so it's this expectation that you need to constantly be there for other people and be there for your family, regardless of like what happens. And then I think we're kind of the first generation that started like more openly going against these expectations. And because the rest of your family, for example, had this expectation of you, and now you're going against their expectation, like that's where
it comes.
They're angry about.
And I think it's not a bad thing because everyone thinks it's a bad thing. I think there's two sides.
Yeah.
People resent you because they didn't set boundaries themselves. Or people feel that you are this naive, stupid person and they want to help you. And you're like, I will let you know if because I'm setting boundaries, if I need help, I will come and ask for help. And then pretty sure you would not be the one that I would ask help for. Like, because this is where boundary comes from. You're like, you create, I know, I don't want to use the term wall, but it is a wall.
It's true. No, it's not a wall. You're right. It's more like a fence you can see through.
A bubble. There we go.
But so I think the reason why the wall thing is incorrect is because like there's two different reactions to it, right? There's the people, especially like I think a lot of older generations or like narcissistic people that like really have a hard time accepting people's boundaries. But I think what it gets to a lot of the time now is people just use this like my boundary as a way to avoid any negative situation. So like with a partner, with family, with a friend, whoever, like you get into this like uncomfortable situation where like you need to talk it through, and then they're like, no, you're going beyond my boundary, and like they use that as their excuse to just like avoid it and not talk about it. It's like, but then you're like, you're not solving anything. You need to also talk about something. It's like, this is not an excuse. Like one, it's either like an excuse to like completely avoid, which is not being rude or mean, but like you're also not solving anything because you're avoiding it. And then the other side is people are just like disregard everyone else's feeling because like, well, my boundary is this, like then like it's not an excuse to be an a-hole.
I agree.
Which I think like a lot of people don't understand.
Because they're taking, that's another thing, they're taking boundaries definition wrong. There's an expression in our culture, if you're going through things, first of all, in I think many culture, mental health doesn't
what
exist.
Is mental health?
What is mental health? I had to actually explain to my family, and I'll be like, there is a chemical in my brain does not produce this chemical, and if I got this help in my 20s, I would have been so much happier. They have this whole stigma that no, just move on, forget it, get over it, shove it under the rug, or you have it better than your neighbor, or like, have you seen this Africa kid? They're starving and you're here sitting on your high horses and you think you're the better, and you're like, you're basically dissing the other person's space, and you're saying this space that you existing mean nothing. Be appreciative because other person's space that it exists is way more valid. And I had to fight with my family, be like,
both can be true.
Both can be true. When I'm talking about me, I'm not disregarding your feelings and your space or a person in Africa.
Like, eat your food. There's children that don't have any.
That has these two comparison doesn't mean anything. Like, you're basically telling me I should be happy that on my live. So
Which, like, you're not saying you're not.
I'm not saying I'm not. So it took me a long time to make my parents understand. They didn't. They genuinely didn't, because I became this ungrateful child. And for me to set up, I know, for me to set up a boundary, I pushed my boundary for 2 years. I keep letting them know, I'm not happy with this. I'm not gonna come to this. It becomes from controlling to like, oh, you have people over, you have to come. Why are you not coming? Like, do you know how rude it is if you don't show up? And you're like, well, I wanna be home.
That's our generation, like our parents' thing. It's like they guilt you into everything.
And you're like, well, it's my Saturday as well. I work so hard during the entire week. I want to be home. No, you're being antisocial. I'm like, this has nothing to do. I just want to be home on Saturday. And it made me feel so guilty. That's how crazy it is. So I started by that. I'm like, I start choosing where I want to spend my time, where I want to be, and it created a lot of drama. And I was like, oh, I need to step way more back, because I understand and respect their life and their boundaries, but they're not accepting and respecting my boundaries. Yeah. And because they're seeing it as being ungrateful and taking things too far. Like, Libby is thriving.
Everybody calm down.
Everybody calm. So that's what I mean. So when you put boundary, you just putting boundary to help yourself, save yourself from a lot of space. And I say it again, it comes with a lot of guilt. It's not easy. You feel guilty. You feel you're the crazy one. You feel like you're doing everything wrong.
You know, I was going to say another part that maybe you should include in the story that you just gave, because this is actually something you do really beautifully, maybe sometimes to your own detriment, is like you can set boundaries and then also have a bit of flexibility that when it really matters and you need to show up and like be kind, you still go outside the boundary and you do it, right? So you're like, I'm done with this relationship. You guys are not bringing me anything good. But then if they contact you in serious crisis, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna step outside of it, show up. Because like also we're human.
Yeah.
And like you should be kind to people.
Yeah.
And like if it's gonna undead you on the inside to like say no to someone that badly, like it's okay, just go outside your boundary. You know, like be like don't go crazy. Yeah. But like again, limits.
Limits,
because
like limits. For me, that's what I mean when it comes with guilty. I went out of my boundary and I let my family in, and I got hurt in all of it. I genuinely did. And I learned a lesson. I closed that door again. So if they show up in my door, I actually don't know how I would react. I don't know. I haven't got to that conclusion. I don't know. Maybe they're listening now. Maybe they would never contact me.
Like, you mother effer.
But I genuinely don't know. I don't know how I would react. But because, as you said, because we're human, if your family knocking on your door, I'm gonna show up and give you my full support. But because you show up and you give your full support, go with open mind that you are the one who are gonna get hurt at the end, which it happened to me clear as a day. So I opened a little bit door of my window and I was like, hello, I don't think so. Maybe later on, maybe in a couple of years, maybe I'm in way much better state of mind, I would do it. But now I learned another thing, never say never. But now I just like, I get hives thinking about it. Because I was such a bad state of mind. That's what I mean when it comes with a lot of guilt, and then hate of yourself, because you're like, I worked so hard for myself to be where I am, and I didn't saw any of the red flags. I opened my heart, because you think you're human. You're like, it's your family. It's not like a random person. And again, I'm so nice to a random person. So I'm like, why can I not be to my family? Yeah. And you do it, and it costs a lot. And you're like, oh, no. I work so hard. I paid so much money to my therapist. If you're listening, shout out to you. It doesn't worth it. So you always have to see what worth or what not worth to your mental health. Yeah. Like if you put it on the scale, see, does it worth for you to open that, lower down your boundaries and let them in? And I think we will all do it because we are human. We are not robot. And then you do learn. And I always say, like, we are humans, that we are capable of edits and we are capable of learning. It's always about, if you think about, which that's where another topic comes, like narcissistic, because they think they're the better than everyone and they never need to be learned. But you always have to have this mindset of you're always open for learning, because we are learning. As in one of our episodes said, like, as a
adult emotional learning.
Yeah, adult emotional learning. Or another one that like we learn about internet, we learn about like, you know, we keep constantly learning. We learn about new languages, like we learn new job, we learn how to cook, we keep learning. But when it comes to certain characteristics, we're like, oh no, I'm perfect, I'm not learning. We don't learn other aspect of our life, but if you look at it, we're learning how to drive, you're learning, it's constant learning, like especially adult, like more older generation, they're learning how to use Instagram, social media, how to tweet, how to X.
But okay, actually, yeah. So what you're saying, I think what's interesting to me in terms of this boundary topic, I think there's differences and in the generations, and not to say like everyone who's a boomers is everyone. It's not the case. Like, but for many it's that, right? Like we're like for the older, like say like the boomers, it's very much like just get over it. Like life is tough. Like suck it up. Da 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 da.
You're not the only one.
Exactly. Whereas I think for like a little bit later, the Gen X's who then became the crazy parents. But they were kind of, I think, more similar to that boomer era as well. But then millennials were like, okay, going to like therapy properly, trying to understand the stuff, setting healthy boundaries. And then the generations after, it's like they have no tolerance for anything. So they're like, everything is like an excuse to avoid the conversation or like using it as a way to keep people out, right? Like it's like the people that don't do therapy that use therapy buzzwords all the time.
Yes.
I think you see that more in like the younger generations now, where like they're constantly having like crisis. Somehow.
Another thing, accepting a therapy, that's a big step in your life because you're saying that I have issues and I need to fix them. I always tell people, see it as you have a headache. You have a headache and you take Tylenol or Advil. That's how that you do that, you know, or if you have a cold, you drink hot water with honey. There's always remedy. But when it comes that you have a characteristic crisis, you don't seek help and you go right now with this era, you go to ChatGPT, but you go to these podcasts. You always come to and listen to us, by the way.
We give you fantastic advice.
Give fantastic advice. But you go to all these like help self YouTube and podcasts and you take everything and you learn all these big words and you throw them at your people or you're like, oh, I'm perfect now. But you forget a therapy is shaped around you. They understand who you are and they try to give you tools to help you. Not like a generic thing they're throwing and maybe none of that applies to you.
Yeah.
I think that's what the Gen Z comes, like they basically avoiding everything because they think that they know everything because of this era of internet, but they don't help because like, oh, why am I have to pay someone? And then I'm like, that person is listening to you, understanding who you are, and it takes time and gives you, and then I don't like that people's like, oh, I've been going to therapy and they're not giving me anything. I'm like, that's another mistake you do actually.
Oh no, I have two opinions on this.
Go ahead, tell me.
Because actually I kind of, sometimes I agree. Like I think you actually need to find a really good therapist. This is hard because not everyone is good. You need to click with them well. It's like it's almost in a way like a friendship. Like you're gonna open up your life to them. So you need to click with them. But I do think now that therapy has become such a like an in thing where a lot of people just do therapy, there is a really big thing of like you go to therapy and they just like listen to you and they're not trying to intervene in any way. Whereas I actually think a good therapist should intervene a little bit. Like it's not just like you going and talking about, because like it's so easy for you to go there and say whatever story and build your story however way, and that person is only seeing you. They're not seeing you in real life. They're not interacting with other people around you. So I think you can go in there with a little bit of a fake narrative and drag that on forever and be like, well, I'm going to therapy, like it's and go nowhere with it.
If a therapy doesn't ask question, that's not a good therapist.
But I think like every other profession, there's going to be therapists that aren't great.
Of course.
Like this is just a thing. So like just because you went to one person doesn't necessarily mean it's everything. Also, like, did you go in with the willingness to want to change?
That's important.
That's a big thing.
That's
if you
really
just went there and like you don't believe anything they're saying and you're never thinking about it, trying to implement it in your life. But like, I do think it's useful for like therapists to like direct you a certain way. Did you watch the Jonah Hill documentary like thing that he did with his therapist? It's actually really, really good. So it's just him talking about, because I guess he went through a lot of like, he lost his brother. There was also like his whole body image stuff. Anyways, he does this like documentary, like I think it's a couple episodes or it was a movie with his therapist. And that's one of the things his therapist says, that like people go to therapy expecting like tools, tips. Like it's like if you go there and you have to go for 10 sessions before you notice a difference, before you get any kind of real result, you're gonna give up before you get there. So like on your first session or your second session, like your therapist needs to give you like at least a quick tip or like something for you to take with you so that you feel slightly better to then be encouraged to go back, right? Like you need the little things. So on when people say like whatever the therapy thing, like sometimes I'm like, well, you don't even want to change. You're just going there BS.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm like, but there probably are terrible therapists.
Yeah.
Like
it took me 3 therapists to find my therapist.
Yeah.
And then like I went to my first therapy and then I sit down and cried and she just looked at me and I actually left feeling terrible. And I was like, nothing against you. It's just like it was me that what I took out of that. And I hated that. It took me actually a couple of things to find my therapy. So I think that was like a...
Same, actually. I went through a few before I really actually liked one.
And
it's just character differences sometimes.
And and then you just have to click. And another good therapy would choose you as well because they need to see if they're vibing with you.
Yeah.
And that's what my therapist says. Like that first session is like, I do these, like I give homeworks and all that. And if you follow, I have
not do homework.
I know. And he's like, if you follow, that's where I could help. If you don't, I'm sorry, I'm not a good therapy for it. Oh, another word he said, he's like, I don't want to waste your time and my time. I was like, well, I like honest, you know? And then I'm like, am I crazy? If I'm crazy, please let me know. He's like, he's like, you are a little bit crazy.
Let me just say it.
But we're getting there. So, you know, I just want that.
Yeah. I think the issue with this boundary topic, maybe to start wrapping up the conversation, is the same issue that exists in so many things in the world now, where like people are really stuck on black and white, whereas almost everything is gray. So like, yes, set your boundaries, but don't be extreme. Like your boundary is there as like a way to guide you towards a certain life that you want and a certain like mental, emotional state that you want to have, and you should try to enforce it for yourself and not set it as a rule for other people, like you're Hitler, you know?
Yeah.
Literally, because that's what people act like.
Yeah.
It's also okay if you break it sometimes because you're human and this is life. And like, I think if you're super strict with this stuff, like you're never gonna have real friends and you're never gonna have like a good romantic relationship if you're like super crazy strict with your boundaries.
Yeah.
Because like interactions with human beings like naturally involve them disappointing you sometimes, doing things that like you didn't love. And like you do that too, like you're human.
Yeah, you're not perfect.
Yeah.
So I have to say, when we talk about boundaries again, like when you create a bubble and you let people in that bubble, you don't have I don't have boundaries with you or like, you know what I mean? That's where a boundary comes. You choose your people you want to hang out. You choose who you want to be your friend, who you want to call, who you want to spend your time, who you want to love, who you want to create a life. Honestly, another thing, you should be more scared disappointing yourself than others. That's another boundary thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Pop in your bubble. Let us in. You know, we keep talking about don't listen to all these podcasts, but always tune in. Bye.